Today we'll talk about how to witness to atheists. How to witness to atheists. So we're going to look at Psalms chapter 102. Psalms chapter 102. So how do you witness to atheists? It can be very, very difficult. Sometimes some people will think that atheists are the hardest people to reach to salvation, because you can't argue Christian stuff with them, you see. You have to argue scientifically, rationally with them. And let's be honest, Christians are not really skilled in that, you see. At least with other different religions, you can use Christian stuff, Christian arguments with them. But with atheists, you can't do that. You have to be intelligent, reasonable. So it's very, very difficult. Well, actually, it can be much more simple than you think. It doesn't have to be that difficult. It will only be difficult if you make it difficult. So that's the purpose of these lessons we're going to go through on how to witness. So let's first talk about how to witness to atheists, all right? Psalms chapter 102, and then the passages we'll be looking at later is verses 25 through 27. Verses 25 through 27. Now, the thing to understand about atheists is this, is that they believe that God did not create the universe, right? They will say all kinds of scientific jargon that you don't even know about on what created the universe. The most common belief is like the Big Bang, right? Basically, there was some kind of sort of explosion in the universe and created everything. They also mention about gravity that created the universe. That's where Stephen Hawking, the famous person who tried to use this argument against God, gravity is what created the universe. Or dark matter is what created the universe. Or whatever matter and energy. So remember this. They're going to use whatever matter or whatever energy to prove that that's what created this universe. All right? They might use a lot of scientific jargon on you, but remember this. This is absolutely important. Otherwise, you will get lost and you won't know how to witness to an atheist. All you have to do is not understand every detail of what they argue. Just understand the main point.
Yeah.
They might say Big Bang, they might say dark matter, gravity, or some kind of scientific terminology of whatever created this universe, and they'll go 20 sentences long, and they'll just bore your mind, and you get lost, and you don't know how to answer to that.
Yeah.
But basically, what that all translates into is just two words. Matter or energy.
Yeah.
That's it, you see? Because no matter what they say, it doesn't change the fact that whatever created the universe is going to be whatever matter it is or whatever energy it is. Okay? So remember that. Okay? So matter is like the substances, right? The substances that are solid, so to speak. Like the chair is matter. The rock is matter. The earth is matter. Energy, I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? So we can say gravity right there, or magnetic forces. Electrons, protons, etc. All right? So no one's lost so far? This should be simple enough, all right? So whatever they say created this universe doesn't change the fact it's going to be whatever matter or energy, okay? Now, they're going to say that whatever matter or energy it is, Big Bang, gravity, dark matter, blah, 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 it's what created all this universe, all right? So that's number one to understand, all right, that you want to note and understand. So this is how you answer to that, okay? How you answer to that is there is a law of thermodynamics, okay? It's a law that is one of the most rock-solid laws in science, okay? Even the famous Albert Einstein say the two greatest laws, okay, has to do with the law of thermodynamics, okay? Now, you might go, what is that? That's already a long word, Pastor. Well, that's why it'd be important to note it.
Yeah.
So the important thing to note, what is the law of thermodynamics, right? Okay, what we're going to use is this. There are several laws. There are several laws of thermodynamics. In this case right here, where they mention whatever matter or energy created this universe, you want to use the second law of thermodynamics. Okay, so that's what it's called. Remember that. the second law of thermodynamics. In fact, even Christian apologists, you gotta understand this. Many scholars who go like 3-hour or 5-hour debates with famous atheists and skeptics, all right, they're able to use one of the arguments they use the most is second law of thermodynamics. Atheists know that, all right? That's why they hate that law, all right? Now, what is the second law of thermodynamics, all right? It's very simple. What it simply means is this, all right? It simply is saying that all matter and energy break apart. That's it. In this universe, whatever matter it is, or whatever energy it is, it breaks apart. Okay, what do you mean by that, Pastor? Well, let's take a running car, for example, okay? Now, let me ask you this question. That running car, can it last forever running like that with the engine? Obviously not. It wears down, right?
Yes.
It breaks apart, right? All right? That's what they call the law of entropy too, but you don't have to remember that, okay? Basically, everything breaks apart.
Yeah.
That's a law of the universe, you gotta understand. Now, that is very true. You yourself are not going to last forever.
Right.
You will die, okay? Let's be realistic. You will die, okay?
Amen.
You know why? Because as time and time passes by, what happens? Your body will break apart. You see, it wears down.
Yep.
You see? So matter and energy, all right, it cannot always combine together and then evolve into something better and better.
Yeah.
It always breaks apart more and more. It breaks apart more and more. So then whatever matter and energy can combine, it will break apart, and then this thing will break apart, and that thing will break apart, and then it just breaks apart. You see that? That's a law of the universe, the second law of thermodynamics. This earth, all right? Otherwise, the atheists and liberals would not be arguing about we've got to save the environment, right?
Yeah.
See, we got to understand this. Everyone, okay, even a hardcore atheist knows that. All of this universe breaks apart, all right? So was that simple to understand about the second law of thermodynamics? So that's all you need to know. Now you might say, oh, why is that important, Pastor? Because here's the argument. The argument is this, is that if they say the Big Bang or gravity or whatever blah, blah, blah scientific jargon that you don't know what they're saying, you just translate it in 2 words. It just means whatever matter or whatever energy, right? When you get that, you say, okay, whatever matter or whatever energy it is, that atheist believes that is what created the universe.
Yeah.
But here's your argument with second law of thermodynamics, is that, remember, all matter and energy, no matter what it is, breaks apart, right? So how can something that breaks apart last forever? You see that? It can't last forever, right? That matter and energy, it has to break apart. See, and then breaks apart more and more and more. All right? Now, some scientists, all right, just a side note, you don't really have to know this, but just a side note, some atheists, some evolutionists, some scientists, they will try to say that energy or matter, that it can last forever, and they will use some mathematical equation, whatever, but that is so stupid, okay? Because when things break apart, they don't realize this. The energy and matter that creates a substance, proton and atoms don't last forever, you see? So then, that's just a side note, but you don't have to know that, all right? Honestly, though, honest science, the point is this. Honest science is this, is that matter and energy breaks apart. It cannot last forever, you see?
It's not eternal.
Yeah, it's not eternal, you see that? So then, here's the thing, is that if gravity created this universe, how can it do that when it has to break apart? You see that? Let's put it to billions and billions of years ago. Okay, then gravity, what's the beginning, right? What started this universe?
Yeah.
What started this universe? Ask them. What started this universe? It's gravity, right? Okay, what was before gravity? They don't know.
Yeah.
Then you just have to simply say this, that gravity was always there, right?
Yeah, that's
But you can't say gravity was always there. Why? Because it breaks apart. You see that? So that is a simple argument. You see that? It's simplistic enough, okay? So if they say Big Bang, gravity, dark matter, or whatever scientific word they'll say, Just remember this. Okay, whatever they said, it doesn't change the fact that it's whatever matter or whatever energy. All right? And then you tell them this. Okay, then what was before that matter or energy? They'll say, I don't know. Then you tell them this. Then you're saying that it's always been there, but that's impossible.
Yeah.
Because matter and energy break apart. It always annoys them, okay? When you always say, ask them, what was before the Big Bang? What was before gravity? What was before dark matter? They all get annoyed, all right? They all get annoyed. When I come across really smart ones, I really laugh even harder, okay? Because they think they're smarter than a lot of scientists, so they can say what's before dark matter or what's before the Big Bang. And that just makes me laugh because I just have to ask them the very next question. What's before that one? Then they have to think hard again, and then they come up with a clever answer, what was before that one? I say, okay, what was before that one? Then they have to think very hard and come up with another clever answer. And then it always works. Then they come up to say, I don't know after that. They get frustrated after that. And I tell them this, you see, it doesn't change the fact no matter how far back you go, it's whatever matter, whatever energy it is, and it can't always be there eternally. It can't always just have been there. It had to break apart. So you see that? That's written in the Bible, you see. The Bible shows that all matter and energy in this universe, it does break apart. The Bible proves it. Look at right here. Psalms chapter 102, verse 25. Of old, the atheist would like to say, billions and billions of years ago, okay, all right, whatever how old it is, hast thou laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of thy hands. So notice right here, see all of creation in the universe. You see that? Heavens and earth. All right, all of the universe. When they were created, look at verse 26. They shall, what? Perish. You see that? So those things are not eternal.
Yep.
So think about this. Even before the second law of thermodynamics was popularized and created by scientists, God already told you about it long time ago at the BCs about the second law of thermodynamics. You see? So you notice right here that Christianity is not unreasonable. It's not unintelligent. All right? It is very reasonable. It actually showed you an intelligent argument at the BCs long before scientists caught up.
That's right.
You see that? But what do we believe is eternal? You see? But thou shalt endure. It's God. Yea, all of them shall wax old like a garment. As a vesture shalt thou change them, and they shall be changed. Verse 27, but thou art the same, and thy years shall have no end.
Amen.
So it makes more sense, you see, to say something that's all-powerful or eternal, you see. Not matter or energy of the universe. It makes more sense that something has to be so powerful that it can be eternal. That created us. So you notice right here why God would be a more reasonable argument. You see that? See, God is a more reasonable argument, you see, because matter and energy in the universe, they break apart. They're that weak. So you have to think of something that's so powerful, that something eternal, that's not of science, second law of thermodynamics, something out there that would have to create this. Well then, see, you're out of science and you're into something that's supernatural, spiritual, you see.
That's right.
You have to put in God, you see. Whether you like to or not, you see. So no matter what, you have to argue that there is a God, and that's the most reasonable argument to make. Now, let's go to Isaiah chapter 44, please. Isaiah 44. Here's the second argument. Here's the second thing you want to note. The second thing you want to note. Isaiah chapter 44. Now, the second thing to note, which is a very ridiculous argument. Now, to be very honest, only people who are really dumb would argue this, okay? Now, that's being very honest, all right? And you'd be surprised how many atheists that I talk to, how very dumb they can be.
Amen.
And how they would publicize that on cable television. And those guys with so many infinite PhDs, they should know better that it's not really an honest argument or a smart argument that they're going to use. What they're going to argue is this, okay? The second thing you want to note down is that atheists will argue that nothing created all this universe. God is not the start to make all this universe, right? You've heard that line before. That should be very rare, but they would actually teach that. They believe this. It's not God who created the universe, but absolutely nothing created the universe, you see. So that's what they will argue. Now that is a very dumb, foolish argument, all right? That is very dumb and foolish. Now the reason why is this, okay? Because no one argues that in science. That's utterly impossible.
Yes.
Very utterly impossible. The one they argued before about whatever matter or energy created this universe, that is more reasonable that science would go to. Okay, that's something science that they could use, okay? But absolutely nothing creating this universe, that is not science, all right? I assure you, that is not science no matter how deep you study, all right? Even the guys who are 10 times higher than you in intelligence, they even know that, okay? They know nothing, that it's impossible that nothing created the universe, all right? Now, that's just common sense. You don't need a scientific law for that. But just in case, there's a scientific law for that, okay? So here's a scientific law you can use against that. So if people argue absolutely nothing created this universe, and you tell them, not one scientist believes that, and they don't believe you, then here's a scientific law you can use on them, all right? It's called the first law of thermodynamics, okay? So you already have one argument called the second law of thermodynamics. The other law you can use to argue against atheism is the first law of thermodynamics. Now, what is that law? The first law of thermodynamics, it states that all matter and energy, so whatever matter or whatever energy it is, it cannot be created or destroyed suddenly out of nowhere. That's the first law of thermodynamics. So in other words, matter or energy, it can't just boom, like that out of nothing, you see? Just out of nowhere, suddenly, boom, there it is, matter and energy. That's impossible. It never happens, okay? Why? Because you don't need a scientific law. That's just common sense. No one in their right mind believes that, all right? But if people insist that that's what created the universe, okay, number one, they don't know science, they're dumb. Or number two, you just use first law of thermodynamics, all right? First law of thermodynamics states, all matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed suddenly out of nowhere, all right? All right, so you already debunked atheism now. Let's review. How do you debunk atheism? With the second law of thermodynamics. So whatever matter or energy they're going to name to you, don't let that scare you. You just use second law of thermodynamics to show them all matter and energy break apart. So it cannot have been there forever. The second law you can use is the first law of thermodynamics. So if an atheist does not use the line that matter and energy created the universe, but that nothing, it just came out of nowhere, created the universe, then you can laugh at them and then use the first law of thermodynamics, okay? The first law of thermodynamics states all matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed suddenly out of nowhere. So again, what that means is that all of a sudden, whoop, there's an atom, right? And then whoop, all of a sudden there's an earth. And then, whoop, all of a sudden then there's gravity, and then whoop, all of a sudden, boom, then the Big Bang, and then create the universe. Okay, you see? You're already laughing. You see, why are you guys laughing? Because you know that's just ridiculous. Yeah. You see that? Just out of nowhere. Boop. I'm just being honest. I'm being honest. All of a sudden, boop, boop. Anyways, all right. Okay, but you get the idea. You see, just out of nowhere, it just can't happen. All right? So when you do that, you already destroyed atheism. Now, let's look at Isaiah 44, verse 6. Isaiah chapter 44, verse 6. You're absolutely right. You notice that atheism is not that hard to debunk now. You see that? It can be very much more simple than you think. That's why they have to complicate it. You see? Exactly. So what's important to understand is this. Why is atheism so hard to argue against, Pastor? I'll tell you why. Because you listen to every detail they argue, and because of that, you feel like you have to understand every detail they use, and then find a way to break it apart and argue against it. If you do that, you're just making it too complicated, and you will never convince an atheist.
Yeah.
You see? All you have to do is this. Put earplugs on your ears while he's talking, and then after he's done, you just pull it out, and then just tell him the second law of thermodynamics, and there's a 90% or 99% chance you already hit the answer against him.
Yeah.
You see? Because it doesn't matter what scientific jargon or complicated words they use. It doesn't change the fact, see?
Yeah.
It's whatever matter or energy it is.
Yeah.
And then you already debunked it with second law of thermodynamics. But do you see why so many people think that it's intelligent?
Yeah.
That atheism can be intelligent? Why so many people think that it's very good for higher education?
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is this. Add in a bunch of complicated words that go 5 paragraphs long, and you can make anything intelligent.
That's true.
You see? That's the thing. Look at Isaiah chapter 44, verse 6. The Bible says, "Thus saith the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no God." So notice right here that Isaiah 44, verse 6, God says, "I am the first." So it makes more sense that somebody, rather than plainly nothing, is what created the universe, you see? So this verse showed you what's the first cause that created all this universe. It's not just blank nothing. Do you see blank nothing in this verse? No. You see an all-powerful entity.
Intelligent.
Something intelligent, all-powerful, that created the universe. Now, common sense, think about this. Common sense, does it make more sense that an atom or energy or whatever matter it is, just plainly out of nothing, or something so powerful, incredible, that's outside of the universe, you see? That's outside of science itself, that created and put it? What sounds more reasonable, you see? So you notice why we insist God, we have to put God in the universe? That sounds more reasonable, more logical, you see? All right, let's talk about number 3 now. Number 3. Here's the third thing you might come across. Now, there are those, and it is amazing, all right, like Lawrence Krauss, and then other famous atheists, all right, they do say this, and I don't know why they say this. They should know better. They really try to say nothing created the universe, all right? Neil deGrasse Tyson, those guys, they act all intelligent, and they will try to fool you saying that nothing did create the universe, okay? Now, you might say this, well, how can an honest scientist believe that? We already covered that, right? Well, the reason why is this. This is their definition of nothing, okay? Now, this shows how very brilliant they are, but shows actually the very foolishness of it to stupidity, okay? Let me explain it to you. Now, matter and energy, that's not nothing, right? In their translation, it means nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Because here's the intelligent way they cover it up. Dark matter, you see? So basically the black, if you go to a room that's all black, see that black stuff? That's practically nothing, you see that? So because that's nothing, so to speak, that's dark matter that created the universe. You see that? So you see how they cover it up. Another thing is like gravity, see? Gravity is like nothing itself. Okay? Some kind of force, okay? And then through this, it just, I don't know, the universe collapsed, whatever Hawking said and those atheists said, it collapsed and then it created the universe itself, whatever, alright? They'll say, that's practically nothing, they'll say. That's practically nothing. Now, if you listen to that, you notice what they said. It's practically nothing.
Which means it's something.
Yeah, see? So it doesn't change the fact is this. It's still something.
Yeah.
Alright? Now, let's say, for example, like this room, this empty air, this space that I'm touching, we call that nothing, so to speak, right? You see?
Yeah.
So I'm going like this, it's like nothing, right? If I put a chair here, that's something, right?
Yeah.
Let me give an easy example. If all of this was emptied in the living room, and then Kirsten came to this room and said, there's nothing in this room, You see that? That's what those atheists are thinking, you see? So that's what, like, yeah, empty space. There you go, okay? It's like empty space, so to speak. All right? So that's why they say nothing created the universe. You see that? That's where they get their idea from, you see? But to be very honest, you see, if you were to go into science, now we're talking about science here, people.
Yeah.
That's not nothing. When you microscope this room, you can find a lot of things,
Oh, yeah.
all right, that are filling up this empty
All
space,
kinds.
all right? Dark matter, that's what they call it. What did they just gave it away? It's still matter. You see that? And remember, whatever matter or energy it is, what does the second law of thermodynamics state? It breaks apart. See that? Gravity. All you have to do is Wikipedia it. And if you want to be scientific, look at a scientific journal. What are the elements that consist in gravity? It's a energy. It's a force.
Yeah.
Oh, you see that? So that's not nothing. You see that? That's not nothing. As much as they would like to say nothing, it's not really nothing. So don't let that scare you, okay? Every honest scientist does not believe that, okay? If they want to be scientific about it and try to say nothing created this universe, you tell them you are not being an honest scientific person. Because if you really applied science in there, what is it? It's not really nothing. You see that? Okay, let's also look at 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 3. So you notice right here that atheism, it can be very easy. It is very easy to break it apart. You see that? It's very easy to break it apart. It's not very difficult. Now remember, let me explain again. When you argue with an atheist or try to show them how intelligent, reasonable Christianity is, remember this. If you don't remember this, when you witness to an atheist, you will never witness to an atheist. Don't try to answer all the details that he's saying.
Yeah.
All right? Ignore it completely. All right? Ignore it completely. All right? Because what you're trying to do is that you will lose the battle. All right? You know why? Because you don't know all those scientific matters and energy and all that substance that he evolved and all that. All right? You don't know all that. All right? Now, besides, why even argue about that? You don't have to. Because it doesn't change the fact, let's assume that it does work, okay? All the specific details they said, it does scientifically work, all right? It doesn't change the fact when you go at the very start, you see that? The very start, whatever matter or energy it is, it breaks apart. It cannot last forever. It doesn't change that fact, you see? So, that's how you witness to atheists, you see? Ignore all that, all right? Ignore all that and just translate it. Translate whatever jargon or blah, blah, blah they're saying and translate that as, okay, that's a matter. Okay, that's an energy. That's a matter. That's an energy.
Yeah.
That's a matter. That's energy. Just keep doing that, okay? And when they use stuff like nothing, dark matter, gravity, then you just say this, okay, that's matter or energy. Oh, that's matter or energy. Oh, that's matter or energy.
Yeah.
Just translate that every single time, all right? I don't know if Brother Sean remembers, but when we were street preaching around Rivermark Plaza, where North Valley Baptist Church was nearby located, there was a atheist that always walks by us when we street preach. Okay, I remember him very well, all right? But I don't know if Sean remembers, but I do remember this, is that when I was talking about what created this universe, I kept annoying him with that question. What was before that? What was before that? What was before that? And the guy was intelligent to come up with the answers, so I was actually laughing inside. I was like, this guy is actually smart, but boy, is he wasting his breath. So he went on for 5 minutes like that, like whatever it is, and then he finally got frustrated. He was like, I don't know, you know. And then what did I do? I used second law of thermodynamics, or the first law, you see. He tried to also mention that it's dark matter, so that is like nothing, you know, create the universe. I remember that too. But he just gave it away. That is matter itself,
It's
you see.
dishonest.
Yeah, it is very dishonest,
That's
you
what they
see.
have to resort to.
You see. So don't let that scare you. Whatever they say, It's either nothing or whatever matter or energy it is. And all you have to do is translate that to matter or energy. Matter or energy. That's how you can witness to an atheist. All right? And then once you got that, then attack it, dismantle it with the first and second law of thermodynamics. All right, that should be simple enough. Now let's look at 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15. The Bible says, "But sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason." Right? Higher education. They believe in reason, intelligence, right? Did God say, oh, you're just going to have to be dumb and Christianity is dumb and you can't give a reasonable argument? No. God says, give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. See, God says answer that. You see? So you got to understand this. Christianity, believing that God created this universe, is not some fairy tale myth that sounds very dumb and foolish, like Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy. They like to do that, you see. Yeah. Atheists, they would try to tell you that Christianity is very dumb. All right? They're going to say, God created this universe. All right? That sounds so dumb to me, you know. That just sounds like, why can't we argue then for Santa Claus? Why can't we argue for the Tooth Fairy then to little children? That's nothing like a little child's story. Something that has no reasonable argument behind it, but just some fairy tale myth that you Christians conjure up. Now, is it dumb? Is it a fairy tale myth? No. I gave a little hints before, right? Christianity, believing that God created this universe, it does not sound like a child's story. It is actually a very reasonable, intelligent argument. Now, you might say, why? Here's the answer why, okay? The answer why is this. It's very simple. Remember, they can, no matter what an atheist will say, and I can test it out too with all of you too, alright? I'll test it out with all of you too, alright? Tell me whatever created the universe, guys. Tell me whatever. You can say Big Bang, you can say gravity, you can say dark matter, you can say 2 meteors crash. Tell me whatever, alright? If you guys want to just say it out, then say it out while I'm talking, alright?
It's eternal.
It's eternal, right? What's eternal? What's that it?
The cosmic foam that predated the dark matter, and there was a plasma.
Good job. Keep going.
There was a plasma that was just totally irrecognizable, and it suddenly exploded and created everything.
Okay, now what he did was a good example. Now you know what I translated that as? Matter and energy. You see that? That's all I have to do. Mm-hmm. So no matter what he said, you see, when you listen to all that detail, you would get lost, right? Yeah. But all you have to do, see, I told you before, what did I translate that into? Yeah. Matter or energy. That's it. Matter or energy. And then I tell him that, what would I tell him? I would tell him the second law of thermodynamics. You see that? That it breaks apart, you see. It cannot be eternal. It breaks apart. Can't just always been there. It breaks apart. And then see, you already dismantle it. Mm-hmm. And if you want to throw in a different answer?
This isn't real life. We're not really here.
Yeah, we're not really here. That one is actually not scientific. So that one, we don't even have to argue it in this session.
We're all aliens.
Yeah.
Aliens created us.
Okay. But that's, not scientific again. You see that? Because we can translate alien to what? Matter or energy.
Yeah.
You see that? See, so throw in all kinds of stuff. You'll still translate that as matter or energy.
Yeah.
The only thing that you can get outside of that would say that this is not real, it's an illusion. But when you say that, that's not science already. All right? Scientists don't believe that.
You're forced to say that it's either out of nothing, or that it was always here.
Yeah, exactly. See, those are the only two resorts. See? Those are the only two resorts.
Or that something that is outside of this...
See, exactly.
...create, and that is by nature, doesn't break down, is eternal.
And what are you getting into now? See? You're getting you're getting outside of science And you have to insist what? You have to put God then. You see
Yeah.
that?
Right.
You can call it whatever. I don't care what they call it, all right? They can say something outside of the universe. They'll call it a force, energy, whatever. It doesn't change the fact that the word is translated to G-O-D. You can call it whatever, but it is God, you see.
Amen.
I remember when William Lane Craig, this is a side note, you don't have to write this in your notes, but as a side note, this professor was using all this terminology and stuff that the universe is like a computer, very scientific, created all this and all that kind of stuff, trying to go outside the laws of thermodynamics. And then Craig just went like this, and William Craig just told him, you know, sir, you just basically said God is what created the universe. And why not just say God?
Yeah.
You see that? So what do you have to insist no matter what? You have to put God. You see that?
Amen.
You have to put God. It doesn't change the fact what you call it. It doesn't change the fact it's a supernatural,
Yes.
not scientific, not bound by the laws of science being. When you get into that, see, then we Christians call it God. You can call it whatever, but it doesn't change the fact that atheism is gone now. You see that? You already dismantled atheism. Because they think, they do not believe, see, in the supernatural spiritual.
Yeah.
See, they do not believe in the supernatural or spiritual. That's outside of science. Now you got them. Now they have to deny atheism. See? Now, as a side note, you don't have to mention this, but now that they'll admit there is a God, now you have to argue if it's our God, if it's Christian, right? All right, but that's a different session that we'll study, all right? That's a different session we'll study. The very simple answer for us is the Bible, actually, all right? But we'll cover that one much later on. But here's the thing, you already destroyed atheism, you see? You already destroyed atheism. They have to admit something supernatural that's outside of science, that is so powerful that created it. You just said the word God then, you see that? You just said the word God. But they don't want to say that, all right? When you argue with the atheist and they have to resort to that, it's like, you can tell, just say God. Just say God. Yeah. Trust me, all right? So what is the most reasonable answer? The most reasonable answer, you see, that created this universe, it's not dumb. It's not a myth. All right? It is very reasonable. That what? Something outside of science that's so almighty and powerful, that supernatural outside of science, put the universe together. You see? That's what we Christians believe, see?
Yeah.
We Christians believe that, you see. We Christians believe that. And that is what? A reasonable answer. That's not dumb, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let that scare you. So, God created the universe. Sounds like Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy, why not just say that? You already can dismantle their argument. You just tell them this. What sounds more reasonable? Whatever matter or energy or nothing that created the universe, that contradicts first and second law of thermodynamics? You can't, no matter what. It contradicts first, second law. Something you have to resort to what? You have to.
Something supernatural.
Outside, yeah, see, outside of science, that's supernatural. That sounds more reasonable, you see. That sounds more reasonable. It makes sense. See, it does make sense, all right?
Said in his heart.
There is no God, you see, exactly. So let's look at Psalms chapter 19 now. Psalms chapter 19. Psalms chapter 19. They will accuse you, you never saw a creator creating the universe. Yet how do you know he exists, right? They will argue that on you. But you just already have a reasonable answer for that, all right? But here's another thing. Let's also use common sense. So here's a fifth thing you can use too. Here's a fifth thing you can note that you can argue against them. If they say you never saw a creator creating the universe, so why would you believe in that? How do you know he exists? This is what you can argue with them, okay? All you have to do is this, okay? Now, we believe that all of creation was by a creator, right? That's what Christians believe in, right? So this is very simple. All you have to do is use whatever example that's created and use that to prove there is a creator and they never saw him. Let me ask you guys this, all right? This watch, you and I never saw the creator who created this watch, right? Mm-hmm. But we believe the creator created this watch, right? Yeah. This house that you and I live in, we don't believe that through some cosmic radiation or whatever gobbledygook that science will say, that it evolved and then it formed and then it came out this building, right? No, we don't believe that. And they'll say, and then imagine an atheist who tells you, well, you never saw the creator who built this building, so that's just ridiculous that you think somebody created this building. You see how foolish that sounds? What about the Honda Civic that I'm driving, you see? I never saw the creator of that Honda Civic before, yet I would believe by faith the guy created the Honda Civic.
Yeah.
Same thing with this house, right? Same thing with this watch. What about the clothes you guys are wearing? You never saw the designer. You just saw the name of the designer on the label, and you just believed it by faith without seeing him. He designed the shirts for you, right? Why? Because it's dumb, it's foolish? No. It's reasonable. Actually, it's just common sense. Whatever's created, there's a creator for that. You see? That's common sense argument. So that's a fifth thing you can use. You don't have to see him. You don't have to see him or her. Imagine if we lived our lives like atheists, that we have to see the creator in order to believe it. Then you're going to have to visit every AT&T founder, Apple, Facebook, the couch that you're sitting on, the clothes and the shoes and all that. Why can't you just believe by faith without seeing that the creator created it? You see? Let's look at Psalms chapter 19, verse 1. The heavens declare what? The glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. You see, that verse proved to you that all of creation already showed itself there had to be a creator, you see. When you guys see something so complicated, intricate, that's designed in an artwork, you do know there had to be an intelligent creator who made that, you see. That's just what? Common sense. We don't even have to get into science here. This is just common sense. You see that? Now, it also shows the foolishness of atheism. Because let's look at Psalms chapter 14. Psalms chapter 14. You might say, why is it very foolish, Pastor? Because all you have to do is this, okay? Here's the sixth thing you can use, alright? The sixth thing you can use is this. If they accuse you, you never saw God creating the universe, yet why do you believe he exists? And you just tell him this. That's being a fool. And then he might get offended and get upset. You don't have to call him a fool, obviously, but actually it is being a fool. And then why is that? Because you tell him this. You never saw the Big Bang either.
Right.
Yet you believe it made the universe.
That's right.
You never saw gravity either. Yet you just believe that it made the universe. You never saw dark matter creating the universe. Yet you believe it created the universe. I could just simply say that I coughed something out of my mouth and that's what created the universe. You'd laugh at me. That's what it sounds like. You see? So you put him, what? At the same position as you. You see that? You put him at the same position as you that, hey, even though I never saw God creating the universe, you never saw the Big Bang creating the universe either. Yeah, why would you believe that? Now, let's apply some common sense argument with that too. Okay? Some common sense argument is this. Is that mention whatever creation in this room. Okay? Mention whatever creation in this room. Alright? And then you tell them this. What sounds more reasonable to you? That a creator created and designed this room? Does that sound more reasonable? Or does it sound more reasonable that through long process of time, of gas and energy and lightning, and then poof, came out this room? Or out of nothing, purely out of nothing, this room came into existence? What sounds more reasonable? You see? So Christianity, again, is a more reasonable argument than atheism.
Yeah.
You see that? So that's what you could use, you see. So you notice that without science, just by common sense arguments, Christianity already won that there has to be a God. Now, if they want to put science in, Christianity already won too with scientific arguments. So through common sense and science, what sounds more reasonable? Atheism or Christianity? Christianity, you see that? It's not atheism. Atheism is not common sense, and it's not scientific either, you see. Now let's look at Psalms chapter 14, verse 1. That's why the Bible is so true. What does it say? The fool has said in his heart what? There is no God. See, that's why only a fool, only a dumb person, unintelligent person would believe there is no God. It's not an unintelligent, foolish, dumb person who believes there is a God. It's the exact opposite. You see that? So how do you witness to atheists? You already know how, you see. So in Fresh Review, you have the first law of thermodynamics that dismantles the argument that nothing created the universe. You've got the second law of thermodynamics that dismantled the argument of whatever matter or energy it is that created the universe. And you also have common sense that whatever's created, there is a creator that created it. Not nothing or through long process of time or matter and energy. You see that? So you notice now how you can witness to atheists. So remember, you will never witness to an atheist if you get bombarded by him with the scientific jargon and then you try to dismantle every detail. If you do that, you will get lost, confused, and the atheist will make a fool out of you. And then that's why Christianity is unintelligent and dumb. You see that? That's why people see it that way. You know why? Because Christians, they're looking at the wrong part to argue.
Yeah.
That's not the issue to argue. The issue is what created the universe. That's the point. That's the issue. You're going away from the main issue at hand and going through all kinds of scientific details that you will lose the battle on. Because let me tell you something. There are scientific explanations for those details. You know that? There are scientific explanations for those details that they give. So you can't argue against science with that. How you argue against science with science is to the source. You see that? Yeah. That's how you argue against atheists. What created the universe? You see?